Okay, I'm back. I'm going to try to pick up where I left off, and I think we were about to discuss the darkness, the secret place, and the pavilion. But I wanted to backtrack just a little bit here. I'm in the King James Version. I'm in Psalm 18, and I want to back up to verses 4 and 5 and point out that, and I said this previously, but I need to cover this again. There's something I need to point out. Okay, here the Lord showed me the connection to Revelations, where we see death and hell. And we know in Revelations chapter 6, in the fourth horseman, we see death was followed by hell. And then the Lord took me to Matthew 24, through this where it speaks of the sorrows. And we see how when Christ spoke to his disciples, the events he spoke of, about, let me see if I can think of this right off the top of my head. There would be many that would come trying to deceive us, okay? Many would come in his name trying to deceive us, and we see that the Antichrist spirit is the first horseman, the white horse. And the second horse is the red horse, which is the horse that removes peace from the earth, which is war. Okay, and then the third horse is the black horse, which we see as famine, or I think a lot of people refer to it as economic collapse. That's when you'll see the economic collapse. But we definitely know it is referring to famine. And then we see the fourth horse, which is the pale horse, which is death followed by hell. And the point that I want to make here is we see these four horsemen of the apocalypse. We see how Psalm 18 fits into that time frame. That's what the Lord is showing me here, okay? He is setting us up to understand the time frame in which Psalm 18 takes place. So here we see the fourth horseman, okay? And then we see, let's see, where's it at? Right here in verse 7. It says, the earth shook and trembled. So here we see the earth shaking. In verse 7 and verse 8, we see smoke and fire that we know is pointing us to the volcanic activity. And we know that in Revelations chapter 9, the Lord has shown me how that would be the opening of the pit, which would bring the darkness that can be felt. Because I think in Revelations 9, it's referred to, I can't remember exactly. I'm not going to quote it. I don't like misquoting the Bible. But we do see darkness come into play, and how the Lord had shown me that we would have an earth shaking, and then a volcanic activity, and then the darkness would come. Okay, in my previous videos a few months ago, when the Lord had shown me this 3-day event, this 3 days of darkness, he showed me how that we would experience at the beginning, just before the 3 days of darkness, we would experience the earth shaking. I guess you could refer to it as just earthquakes, but this will be a shaking like never before. And then the 3 days of darkness would come. And the 3 days of darkness, after the earth shaking, the darkness comes because of the pit being open, which is the volcanic activity. So this, here again, we see this playing out, just like the Lord had shown me months ago. I'm not sure just what those videos are labeled, but I know it's either in the 3-day event series that I did or very close to it. But we see the earth shaking and the volcano, and then the darkness comes in. And And we see that very same sequence happening here in verses 7, 8, and 9 of Psalm 18. Now, that's the thing I wanted to go back and point out, is we're seeing the same scenario take place. And this is after the four horsemen of the apocalypse. So we are following the seals. We also see in the seals, just like I've spoken about, the heavens parting. Now, the thing we want to get to now is this darkness. And here in verse 9 it says, He bowed the heavens also and came down, and darkness was under his feet. Now, we touched on this in the last video, how the heavens parted and the Lord came down. Okay? And we see he came down to the darkness where it was under his feet. Now, I know there are people who have pointed out different interpretations of this right here, but I want you to understand, the Lord shows me things as I read, and you've got to understand that these scriptures, they're not just a flat one meaning thing. God has intertwined meanings. There are many meanings within a scripture, and the Lord points out what he wants you to see. Now, but the Lord will not contradict himself, let me say that. But I promise you, what I see in these scriptures is things I've never seen before when I read these same scriptures. God is opening my eyes to new understandings. And we all need to pray and ask his guidance when we read his word. I always do that. I don't pick the Bible up and read it without praying for God's guidance and understanding. And it makes all the difference. We can make of it what we want, but I am seeing and understanding before, since the Lord showed me the things he did several months ago in the series of videos that he had me make. I guess it's been about 6-7 months ago. The Lord opened my eyes to a lot of things that I did not understand before about these end times and the 3 days of darkness. I know people don't, a lot of people do not feel that the 3 days of darkness prophecy is legitimate. But I'm telling you, when I prayed and asked God about it, he took me to scriptures and give me the understanding he wanted me to receive of it, and made it clear to me that there is a 3 days of darkness, and it will be physically and spiritually taking place. And I just want you to understand that this is not stuff I'm making up. I could not make this stuff up. It fits too well into like what I'm showing you up here in 4 and 5. The Lord got my attention and took me to Revelations with this right here, death, and then the next verse follows that one with hell, and we see death was followed by hell in Revelation 6, 6:8, I believe is what I've got wrote down here. And then when I looked up sorrows, it was in Matthew 24. And Matthew 24, what the Lord was speaking was describing what we see happening with the horsemen of the apocalypse. And the sorrows and what's in Revelation 6 concerning the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse fits perfectly together. Only God could put that together, not me. But I wanted to point out here this darkness. He came down to this darkness and it was under his feet. I'm going to jump on down here to verse 11 because it continues with the darkness. We'll pick back up on verse 10 a little bit later. But 11 says, He made darkness his secret place. his pavilion round about him were dark waters, thick clouds of the skies. Well, we all know the darkness, just like I said a few minutes ago. There is a physical and a spiritual darkness. Now, this is the physical darkness he is able to use for his secret place, his pavilion. And as I did some studies on secret place and pavilion, God opened my eyes even more. And I'm going to cut this off and hopefully get right to that. So it'll be coming in, a video will be coming in right behind this about the secret place and the pavilion. And I'm sorry I did so much backtracking and didn't get to this on this video, but I felt like I needed to. But anyway, hopefully I'll be right back with more on the darkness and the secret place and the pavilion. Love you. Bye-bye.